And right on the left you see the cemetery. The architecture, the sculptures, this art is really very beautiful. Some stories are even funny, so I hope you will enjoy this short tour. So this is a little miniature, a plan, a map of the cemetery. Today the cemetery is closed, so you cannot bury, like if you have some family member, you cannot bury him or her here just because you like the cemetery and it is famous. It is done only with the permission of the city government, and it's done only for famous people. Artists, musicians, poets, politicians who stood for Ukrainian patriotic interests in the past and they were repressed by Soviets. Ukrainian soldiers who defend Ukraine from the eastern side, from the invader. And also some families have here graveyards, family graveyards, since long time, and if there is space, then they get permission, or if 20 years pass since the last burial, they are allowed to add up a new grave. And the name of the person who is buried there is written like a keyboard of piano. That gives you a hint that the person was a musician and composer. And indeed, this is the grave of a famous Ukrainian composer, Ihor Bilozir, as enlightenment, because he did a lot of progressive things for that time, and she's holding the cross close to her heart, meaning that the person was very much believing, attached to believe in Christ. And the young child is the symbol of future, and he holds the wreath. Wreath is like eternal memory of the person, and the shield with the lion means that the man was from Galicia, from Lviv. You can see by the years that musicians live quite long. One musician lived 103 years old, the other 100, so probably music prolongs the human life. Unfortunately, not the poetry. This is the statue on the grave of a famous Ukrainian poet, interpreter, the founder of the first radical party in Ukraine, a professor, a very famous person. His name was Ivan Franko. Ivan Franko didn't live a long life. He died quite a young man, and he died in poverty, unfortunately. And he wrote about 100 volumes of poetry and prose, and only half of that was printed. Half of that is left in manuscripts, but Ivan Franko remains the figure number 2 in Ukrainian literature after Taras Shevchenko. In my opinion, this statue is one of the most beautiful in this cemetery, and we call it Sleeping Beauty. She was buried with the others, and on top of that, the statue was made by the sculptor, whose name was also Markovsky. So the actress and the sculptor had the same name. And she's dressed up and covered by this wonderful blanket with waves, and unfortunately her fingers were broken. Nevertheless, the monument was recently restored, and you see her hair scattered all over the pillow. So he had his beloved one who was called Evridika, and there is a very famous opera, Orpheus and Evridika. So this is the grave of the opera singer and actress, a woman called Solomia Krushelnitska. Solomia Krushelnitska was born in Galicia, and most of her life this woman lived in Italy, and she was performing all over the world. She was very famous in Southern America. She performed really different operas like Aida of Giuseppe Verdi. She performed Ukrainian operas, and one of the most famous operas that she performed was called Madame Butterfly, and it's Chio Chio San it's called. Do you know this opera? It was created, so in Lviv Opera we have a lot of performances which she performed in the past, and the opera itself is named after Solomia Krushelnitska. It is interesting that the man fell ill at the age of about 70, and there was already a new archbishop of Armenian Church, and this one was very much ill, laying in his bed. If you go to Armenian Church, on one of the walls you will see a painting by a very famous Polish artist, Jan Rosen, and it shows the same archbishop in painting. Besides priests, composers, opera singers and poets, you can also see the statues of athletes in this cemetery. He's a very famous athlete. He was a very famous athlete, the champion of 2 Olympic Games. This man was young and he did gymnastics when World War II started. So as every Soviet man, he was called to the army. So I will tell you that this is the grave of a very famous professor of arts. He was a sculptor. And this statue was made of bronze by his student. Hong Kong and Ukraine are quite far from each other. And between our countries, there is a very big country which is called Russia. And Russia is influencing media in the world a lot. And probably very few people in the world know what is happening on the Ukrainian-Russian border at the moment. You probably heard that in 2014 there was annexation of the Crimean Peninsula to Russia, so it's not Ukrainian anymore. And then there started Russian-Ukrainian war, and there are 2 regions of Ukraine called Luhansk and Donetsk that proclaimed independent republics, and in their flag they have Russian colors of flags. So we call these people separatists because they deny the idea of united Ukraine. So every city of Ukraine has the place where the warriors are buried, and in Lviv we have it too, and it's here in Lychakiv cemetery. So all this right side are crosses where you will see portraits, and sometimes of very young men, very young soldiers, and very young even volunteers, because besides officially called soldiers, there are also volunteers who come and give their life for Ukraine. So all these dozens of people, and behind those crosses there are fresh graves of the recently killed soldiers, and with the time there will be also such crosses put here. On the left side you can see a little bit different story. These are also patriots of Ukraine, but they were patriots at the time of Soviet Union, Soviet repressions. Millions of Ukrainian people were put into Soviet camps. A lot of them died there, but some of them, most of them even who are buried here, survived, and they reached quite older age and they were buried here. So both of them are patriots, but of different times. These are contemporary patriots, our soldiers, and these are patriots of the past. This lady's husband gave his life for Ukraine, and this is his son, and probably the wife of the son. So, or
just last year.
Last year in 2018, yeah. So 19. Also, he was a patriot. And these graves are fresh, also, so there will be a monument installed. Нехай спочиває в мирі, герой, патріот наш. There are also saints and angels who protect the warriors, and this is the statue of Archangel Michael, who is a patron saint of warriors. In our case, he is the patron saint of Ukrainian warriors. The part of the cemetery we are coming in is called the Cemetery of White Eagles. The coat of arms of Poland is a white eagle. The memorandum was signed between the President of Ukraine, Yushchenko, and Republic of Poland, Kwasniewski. That was done on the 24th of June, 2005. So definitely when there's some commemoration or if somebody is buried, then they needed a chapel for prayers. And this chapel also has informative function. So on your left side you can see a stand which shows the photographs of this cemetery since it was created in 1934 when we were under Poland. And all through the years of the Soviet Union after World War II, from 1946 till 1989, it was completely destroyed. So you can see horrible pictures how it looked like at Soviet Union time. So the memory should remain alive, and people should remember about heroes and about the past. And there are big Polish delegations who come to the graves, to the cemetery, and they put on every single grave a candle. So this is a big gratitude to the ancestors and a great memory. Another composer, because there's a piano and a very young man. This man was deprived of his life, so he was killed at the age of 30 by KGB agents who wanted to get rid of him. The man wrote, as I said, more than 100 songs, and these songs are not forgotten, and people are singing them. And yesterday, during our dinner, the last song that the musicians played and I was singing was actually one of his most famous songs, which is called Червона рута. And I want to repeat it once again for you. Ти признайся мені, звідки в тебе ті чари, я без тебе всі дні у полоні печалі. Десь далеко в лісах ти чар зілля шукала, сонце руту знайшла й мене щарувала. Червону руту не шукай вечорами, ти у мене єдина тільки любові, бо твоя вода, твоя чистая вода, твоя бистрая вода гір. Good. So one day you will learn this song too.
No, we have another song. Yeah, song, very famous.
Now you will have to sing. You can sing. That will be. No. Okay. When I come to Hong Kong, you will have to sing. Okay.
I don't want to die.